Hey, boys.
So,
Hello to River.
Welcome.
Big greetings, men.
Welcome, one and all, to our humble abode. Whoever the fuck that is. It's
Wait,
what's up?
Who the fuck is this?
Who is this?
Excuse me?
Who's that man?
Who the fuck is
me.
this?
Who's that man?
Who is that man?
Who's that
Who's
Pokemon?
that charming
Who's
man?
that Pokemon?
Who's that Blokemon?
I need to turn down the stream before I go
It's
ear rape
more-
I
that
recommend it, you looper.
looper.
Hey,
It's
everybody.
It's pop plooper pleep plop.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Super Medieval Warfare.
oh god.
No!
There we go. There we
My
go.
line.
We've got full meta.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
No,
Yes,
but
everybody.
hey guys.
We're going to be having Maul as one of our players in this game. So that means I've got 4 players to torment today in the new campaign.
That's a
I
first.
appreciate that.
I mean, well, so no, what it means is that my character doesn't have to die because we have a 2-man party. That'll
Exactly.
be great.
Exactly.
2-man
'cause
parties
your-
suck, dude, in 5e. It's so hard.
Your character was the victim, obviously,
Yes.
and mine was the perpetrator. No,
There we go.
that's neither here nor there.
If Gideon Clive is anything, it's a victim.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's
Gideon Clive was
obviously
the
a
best
victim.
character.
That sounds
A
about
victim of
that's
incompetence.
about right.
I'm being
Mm,
betrayed.
yeah.
Victim of your fucking mom.
Yeah.
All right.
Rude.
So guys, Ruben, why don't you tell us just a little bit about what this game is gonna.
Guten Tag, Mystery.
I'm gonna give everyone a brief overview, but I don't want to get too much
yeah.
into it. I want there to be a lot of contextual clues
Certainly.
as to where we are.
Certainly.
But the base campaign is going to be starting. None of these guys know each other yet. We're going to be starting in a desert city called Mazina, which I will move us over to the map if you want to try and zoom in and show them where that is.
Yeah.
Mr. T-Rip. We'll be starting in Mazina, which is a
Holy
beautiful
shit.
little.
Are we on
I know,
Google
right?
Images?
Are we on Google Earth?
Is this
Oh my
Google
gosh.
Earth, but for D&D? What is this?
It looks good.
It's a beautiful map, boy.
Could,
Shit.
Oh boy.
But we are going to be starting in Mazina, which is a beautiful, very vibrant city with markets, stalls, and a very harsh martial might and force.
Yes.
Surrounding it are the Bloodstone Oasis and the Salt Flats, which basically makes most travel over land inhospitable. So it makes it incredibly difficult for anybody to actually do any trade over land, and thus Mazina has a very big sort of amount of port trade and that sort of thing. And all these guys are playing very differing individuals across the city. Some who have been there for a long time, some who are just arriving.
Yes.
But all who are about to begin an adventure of some sort, thrown into something that they aren't expecting.
Fucking
in their everyday
classic
lives.
D&D, boy. So we don't know each other, gotta meet up, gotta make a party, gotta do some shit with the party.
Bet it's
Hell
gonna
yeah.
So
be in
there
a
may,
tavern.
there may end up being in this session a little bit of me ham-fisting people into the right place so that they can all meet up.
That's okay.
I
Sorry,
love
can we
the
just
idea
do like a
of
broad
a body
sweep
position.
to Ripper across the world of
The
Easeon?
world? Hell yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful.
Or sorry,
world.
Alibrium? Alibrium?
The world is Easeon.
Yeah.
The deserty place is the Silent Empire, and Alibrian is where we played our last
This
campaign
is
for you.
crazy how
old-fashioned
beautiful this
fans.
map is. I like that it's not filled with little cancerous icons as well of like, this is a castle, this is a city. Like, I like that it's just like continent, and then I get to see what the terrain would look like. I mean, it looks beautiful.
I'm glad,
It
dude.
looks very, very good boy.
It's magic. I ain't gotta explain shit.
Sports by, especially by the Northlands, like you got all the mountainous area and stuff. Like it looks very, very sexy.
The mountains are so hard to.
You make this yourself, man?
I did. It's a cataclysm, a horrible amalgamation of different
Wait.
screenshots photoshopped together from Google Earth.
Wait, does that
Oh.
say Alabaster Sierra?
The Alabaster Sierra, yes.
No. Excuse me.
I
So,
know.
to Ripper, isn't there something about Alabaster? You know?
We don't need to hear about that.
No.
Hey,
We
well, you know,
really
we don't
don't.
need to
No.
Let's not
No.
take a good campaign.
Let's
No.
move away from that and back over to the Beta Mirage screen. It looks good. Thanks, Matsuri. I appreciate it. But very shortly we will be getting into the game.
Daddy-do.
But I just want to give a little bit more preamble for everybody. So just a couple of base rules that all the players I've told thus far. about the city that they're going to be entering. Magic is okay, but religion and the active worship of gods is banned in the city. There is a rite called an insalejo, which is used to challenge rulers of the city, or you could technically, by law, do it to anyone in any position and just be like, hey, my boss, I'm going to challenge you to a fight. If I win, I'm the boss now. But it's usually only used for the rulers of the city.
Rulership.
So hypothetically, unless you're a slave, you have a right to challenge anyone for any position in the city. So
Damn.
this is sort of a boiling pot of people who
So
can
what you're
rise
trying to say is
really
you
high
don't
positions.
really have an excuse to be in the lowly position that you're in. If you're kind of the low guy of society, you could aspire to be
As
something
long as
greater.
you're not a slave, exactly.
Well, so that kind of makes some of us pathetic then, if we're in our lowly little positions. It means that we're pussies.
Hey, I resent that.
Yeah,
Or you're
I'm a
happy where
student,
you are.
thank you.
I enjoy where I am.
We're talking about real life. Trip is getting real on us.
Yeah,
I'm a student.
Leave
I
me
pay my
alone.
bills, man.
I'm a
I'm a
I,
student.
I get
You gotta do
I
what you
get
gotta
beat
do.
by my professor, but that's gonna go into the character intro. But anyway, my mind-
So Tripper's going to be abused. Good. We're coming straight in with that. All right.
As it should be.
But yes, this is the same campaign. Any of you veterans of the loading dice, any of you longtime fans, may note that this is the same campaign, the same world as the previous campaign, which was called New Beginnings, which was featuring Gideon Clive and Dimble Waywocket, the cleric and the fighter, which was
Yeah.
my good friend Stay Frosty and Tripper there. Good they were. So hopefully, if they ever get into that part of the world, some influence from what they've done there will be felt.
that'd be pretty cool.
And also the one shot that we ran last week, same world as well.
Ooh, yes.
So
that was a thing.
any of these things are all real things that exist in the world and
Mm-hmm.
have lasting effects that these guys have already put into the world. So hopefully they can, or in future in different campaigns, they can discover what these characters have done in the world. So anything. This is sort of a very open campaign where basically I'm giving a starting point, and from there the players choose where to go. I just develop the world, and they're like, "Oh, this is interesting. Let's go kill like whatever's in the Bloodstone Oasis and die." So if they go out of their
No,
depth,
yeah, it's
they're
pretty
liable to die.
And
But-
die.
It does mean that there are some very cool things that they can explore.
And die. Excuse
Like that.
me.
There's also
Sorry.
dust.
I'm just being real.
I will never die.
I will never die. I'll live on
That
forever.
might be true for some of us.
And on that,
Yeah, Deuce is gonna die. I'm
Hey,
not
Yeah,
dying.
how about-
Deuce is gonna die in this
Tripper.
session.
probable.
Jonas is gonna die.
Well, here's the thing. That's the funny bit. Like, my character is the least survivable, and Deuce's is the most.
I hear my alarm. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Run,
boys.
boy, run.
Okay, so
Last
Start.
week's
Woo!
one shot is the first campaign I've survived.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
yeah, it's the only campaign he hasn't died in. He's played
Other than,
characters and he's played like new characters and not had them die at the end of the campaign. But he's never ran a campaign where he hasn't died in it. I think.
Yeah. The only other time I didn't die was in Brennan in your one shot, and he was Ledoux.
Oh my god.
I agree,
Oh my
Dante.
god.
What we're currently waiting for is for just Frosty to get back, and then I can jump right into the game.
Yeah, boy.
I have a high mortality rate.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Before,
mean-
before he does get back, like, why don't we do that old trope that every single D&D show does? How was your week, guys? How's everything been?
It fucking
Whoa!
Been terrible.
was fine.
I tried to kill myself 6 times, and I fell off a refrigerator once, and I also broke my ankle.
That's good.
Why am I laughing?
Good week.
I like
Not-
how
not that actually,
deadpan that was delivered. What? What?
Mine was similar, except
Uh-huh.
I only tried to kill myself 4 times, so
Fuck.
not quite.
I don't have to. I'm slowly dying as it is.
There we go.
No, I mean, how was everybody? I did pretty much nothing, honestly.
I like
Has
it.
anyone seen Thor Ragnarok? By
No.
the
I
way?
have not yet.
Have
I'm
you?
so far behind.
No one?
Dude, I
Uh-huh.
was in Spider-Man.
I was going to
Homecoming? I
spoil.
watched Spider-Man Homecoming. It's okay.
Yeah.
Actually,
Like,
I saw the new Justice League. I did see that.
Okay.
Wait, is
Okay.
that out?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
Okay.
I had my problems with it, but I enjoyed it overall.
I like the sound of that. All right.
Yeah.
I'm so
Your
far
door's
behind
slowly
in
opening?
movies.
More? There we go. We're good. We're good. Just slap it more. It's fine.
Why is this so funny to me?
I love
Because
this.
it's still going.
Yeah, and then it went on for so long.
Sorry about that.
You're fine.
Oh my
It was
God.
hilarious.
Yeah, I heard Justice League sucked.
I mean, it's the DC film. It's bound
Yeah,
to.
that's how it goes.
It's bound to stinky.
Excuse me,
Found.
why did you find them all so funny? It was just the person asking me a question.
For reference, I'm so far behind in movies. I watched Rogue One this week.
Nice.
I like how you told me a your door slowly opened.
that was like, it was so like slowly. I was like, your door's open.
I was like, I got concerned for a second. Like, my house is legitimately haunted. Like,
Dude,
yeah,
like
I
when a
agree- I
knife
agree
runs
with-
out of the background, just
I agree with Matsuri. Matsuri is they're just like, it's bedtime, Mo.
no. Oh, I have a bedtime.
You don't
No,
have
wait,
a bedtime? Is that what you said? Oh my god.
Hey, Wonder Woman set up an unfair standard.
for DC
DC.
movies. Yeah,
Yeah,
DC.
making everybody thinks that DC movies would be good.
yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
I was gonna say,
it's
one of
kinda
them was
like
fucking
where
off.
Your football team wins a game, you're like, hey, maybe they'll be good, and then trounce the next game, and the next
Yeah.
one, and the next, and the next, and so on.
yeah.
That's
I
what
think
one
one of the issues. I think one of the issues with DC right now is that they're still like catching up to Marvel, so they're using the same formula. So everything is still like the formulaic superhero movie, but they just haven't got like the sort of Marvel polish on it as
Yeah.
well because they're trying to make it gritty.
Whereas-
so.
Marvel's gotten to a point where
Wonder
they're just
Woman
like,
is a
hey,
lesbian?
director, do what you want, and Ragnarok's just ludicrous.
I mean, I disagree, but okay. I think
Mostly.
they just still have like this horrible formula that they make people stick to, and I hate it.
Hello.
hi.
Hello.
I mean,
Dude,
if
that
we're
was fun.
honest,
Marvel,
That was funny. Remember to use non-stick pan, kids. The
Oh,
end.
no. What do you do?
or you can flour your pan like a real human being.
I know, but
Boiling.
flouring just for like pizza, that's effort. I'm assuming it's pizza.
I don't flour anything. All I do is deflour things. If you catch my
Hell
drift.
yeah!
Ah!
There we go. There we
I felt
go.
it. I felt something poke my butthole.
Oh god. So,
Just
is
anyway.
everybody ready to get into the game?
Yep.
Are we?
Galvanot is pretty attractive. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
All right.
So,
I think we're good.
the boat's lower decks are filled with smoke. Around there are deviants smoking bakavas, which is a plant, which is a type of opioid. And this sort of smoke is just littering the air as we see various people high with various hookahs around the room. We see a number of them block the camera's view as they walk past, and we see a man grinning with his hand pressed against a scantily clad woman's ass, leading them happily past the camera to a more private room. We continue past them and moving into the smoke-filled entranceway at the end of the corridor and into this luxurious room. The room seems to be the source of the smoke. We see these various large, plump cushions, maybe some of them 5 feet in diameter. And we see people sitting on them, surrounding hookahs that are in the center. Some in various states of mental disarray, some attempting to hold some form of jovial conversation. Others are trying and failing to seduce their bored conversational partners. And we continue to move through this space until we get to the back of the room. We see a tiny little window that looks a bit like sort of a rounded cross with sort of this intricate patching gauze pattern across it. And as we travel through it, we see that the sound from the other room grows muffled. And we begin to hear another conversation. If you treat your friends like this, you're going to run out of product before we can even reach the damn city to trade. An amused-looking man, pretty tanned but visibly Librian, smiles and is trying to make some seems to be like in a sort of position to be making some jokes to his conversational partners in the room. His face is home to a grin and an embarrassing attempt for a mustache. He's laying lazily across one of the cushions, like full vertical, with a deep V in his shirt, exposing chest hair. Money is not a problem. You should know, trade is not our primary purpose here. This seems to be coming from a man with a deep voice, the sort of voice that commands power. And we see it's coming from a dark-skinned man who, his feet are sort of neatly tucked under him as he's sitting down. His built torso is only really clothed in a decorative sash that goes across it that looks particularly expensive. and his head is wrapped in a turban with various gold chains hanging from it. The other person in the room is sitting, eyes closed, holding an amber orb in his hands. His fingernails are squared and black, and his head is slightly bowed, and is also sitting in a very sort of respectful, peaceful position. His clothes are marked with purple and brown decorative cloth, the purple marking that he must be a man of significant wealth.
Oh man.
The tan man who's lying down, seemingly annoyed that those he's talking to seem to be taking his joke at face value, as opposed to sort of joining in the fun. Fuck this. If you boys are happy with our conversation here, I'm going to go indulge with my crew. And he downs the last of his goblet, wiping dribble of wine from his chin, and begins to run into the other room. The other two men don't say anything and just wait patiently, their heads turning as he leaves. And as soon as the door shuts behind the man, smoke sort of wafting into the room from the force of it closing, the two men turn and look at each other, beginning to speak in a language that slowly transitions from a foreign dialect into English in the like movie, like you know how in like old war films German just translates into English, like slowly through fading. He shouldn't talk, at least not quick enough to matter. The other man nods, opening his eyes to reveal that they're glassy white and that he's clearly blind. Our companions will meet us outside the dock. The meeting comes at dusk. We'll get our Yodas. We should get started then. But there's a creaking sound interrupting their conversation as the door opens and the captain comes in, looking slightly happier. All right, I just remembered that we've got... Shut the door. The captain's sort of amused face turns to annoyance, again at being interrupted, but he obeys and stops the tide of smoke that was flowing into the room. The blind man begins muttering under his breath, and the amber orb that's in his hand begins to glow through the gaps in his fingers, causing beams to shoot out of them into the mildly smoky room. As it hits the smoke, it seems to cause these beams of light. The room almost seems to grow cramped, as if space itself is being sucked towards the orb, and the sounds of choking and bodies collapsing begin to come from the other room. What the fuck are you? The captain is silenced as the larger man just plants his fist into his stomach, so we hear like, ugh, and he just like starts vomiting onto the ground from the force of the blow. His eyes sort of bulging as he's now like sort of bent over retching. The larger man looks back at his companion and nods as the camera begins to move out of the room. We see, as the camera pans back, the other room, as the individuals who were previously being so lively now lie, presumably dead, their eyes wide, and tears of blood pooling out of them and streaming down their face. Some seem to be clawing at their throats before they died. Some seem to be trying to grasp at the windows of the ship, but all collapsed before they were able to escape. And we move out through the back of the ship and see it heading down a river in a desertous landscape. In the distance, we see a distant cluster of orange and white buildings that look like a small city as we fade to black. We fade back in on what appears to be a rather packed, congested room. There is it's not very much unused space here. Every surface is being used for one purpose or another. It's very practical and cramped. In the corner of the room, we see a large clay pot, a white inscribed pattern running along its side in a circle. The pot is about 4 foot high and is filled to the brim with water for use in the house. The pot has a wooden lid, sort of slightly ajar over the top, and the front door to the room is covered by a large blue drape. Sort of white light spilling out of its sides and gaps. A cabinet rests at one side of the room, with a small-looking reptile curled up on top. Looks like an iguana, resting in the narrow crack of light that it's using to sort of keep its blood warm that's coming out of the curtains. Next to the cabinet, there is a bookcase with various scrolls and thick, bound books. Continuing past, there's a stairway of just 3 steps that continues into the next room, and we see the floor is ordained with this bright purple carpet. The room suddenly is illuminated with light And while we adjust our brightness, we see coming from outside, we see a man. Well, more like a boy, walk into the room with sort of long, hurried strides. Seems to be either frustrated or in some form of hurry. He's carrying a stack of 10 or so books as he rushes into the room. He continues into the next room, and we see, as he enters, misted yellow lamps that hang from the ceiling light up as if motion detected. This room, messiness-wise, is even worse than the last one, covered with piles of tomes and various materials that lie about the place. Chaos to the untrained eye, but Jerem has served under the owner of the house for many years and understands how each stack is in a differing field and is vaguely associated, like, in locations around the room. Alchemy goes next to herbalism, herbalism next to plant monsters next to burrowing creatures. There's some logic, but it's sort of a twisted one.
Yes.
And Jerem, why don't you give us a description of you as you sort of like hurry into the room, into this sort of very busy place?
So Jerem entered, and he's carrying this stack of books, and the way he goes between the piles is not as you would imagine someone doing so here. It is not with any kind of franticness or any kind of confusion. He looks like he's done this many dozens of times, and as we see him pulling the books away, you actually get a glimpse of his face, finally. He has this shaggy yet short cropped hair, sort of this dirty brown atop a heavily tanned brown tinted face. This continues throughout the rest of his skin. He's got a very young face, but not boyish. It seems like he has experienced a good bit, but he still has the striking aura of youth.
Okay, so he just looks like he has a lot of life still in him.
He has vitality in him. However, something seems like he has something different from another youth. His cheeks are a little bit more sunken in, his eyes similarly, and he just gives off this impression that, like, you wouldn't want to walk up to him and just be like, "Hey, kid," because that's not who he is. He's something more than that.
And Jerome, your teacher, your master of sorts, has sent you on an errand to collect these tomes that he listed from the market and sort them into all the correct piles, which I assume you're going to go about doing around the room.
Oh, yes.
Sort of like going about this monotonous task of like placing each book like in the correct pile and that sort of thing. And you eventually notice, as you like putting down the second to last book, you look over and see at the main desk there is what looks like sort of an origami bird waiting on the desk, but it moves and its head like tilts to like inspect you and like pecks at the desk with its beak, and it like that thing where paper like bends on like sharp corners, like folded paper, and it seems to just be inspecting you from the desk.
Is this something that is a common occurrence? Method of reading messages?
Yes. Your master has a habit of sending messages like this.
Okay.
Like little notes, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
You assume that Sa sent out on some form of errand.
I just kind of cock my head.
You know the command word.
Yeah,
So,
I'll
like, basically have it unravel.
I'll walk up to it and just kind of like, as I'm walking up to it, I flick my hand, and Jerome's familiar eagle just comes out of thin air, effectively, just materializes, and Jerome just mentally commands it to basically tidy up some of the books.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It just starts moving like some of the books that have like just been knocked to the floor and that sort of thing by the iguana. Your hawk starts like trying to like grab at some of the thinner ones and lift them up.
Yeah. And he will go over to the desk and pick up this folded piece of paper very gingerly, and then speak the command
so
word.
you speak the command word with the bird in its hand, and it starts spreading its wings and sort of starts pecking underneath one wing until you see it's grabbing at like a corner of the parchment and tears it away, and then the entire parchment seems to just unravel until you're just holding like a sheet, completely flat piece of paper, no folds visible, in your hand.
Yeah, I'll hold it like it's a letter.
Yeah, you see face down, there's the clear emblem of a wolf being swallowed by 4 embracing arms. The emblem that, you know, Sar uses on almost everything that he does. Like, there's I'm sure, like, even on some of the books around the house, he's, like, stamped them with that to sort of claim them as his own possession.
Yeah.
He's very fond of it.
Makes sense.
You read the letter, and the gist of it basically comes down to, in very sort of blunt terms, in the drawer, there is a scroll I purchased for you. I require you to make a copy for me. Do not exceed your role here. Do not try to cast the spell.
Yeah, I can hear his voice in my head as he finishes it up, and like the do not exceed your role here. Just
It's
like
so like patronizing because he does this
Yeah.
every time as well, and you've never done anything like that
No.
in like 8 years or however long you've
Yeah.
been here.
And because he's not staring at me while, like, he's telling me this sort of thing, when I read that, I'm just like... I just sigh, just defeated, yet again.
How
And
long
I
have
am-
you been in service of this man? I'm just curious.
Oh god, I'm pretty sure about 12 years now?
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Was it? Yep.
That's a while.
Well,
Yeah, he trained me from nothing to a fully fledged Arcanist.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, okay. It is 8 years. Yeah, yeah.
8
So
years.
technically I'm still in training.
Yes. Though you know that that's sort of like the maximum time. Like the maximum time is usually like 6 to 7 years. So you've been
Yeah.
here longer, and you think that might just be because of like his teaching habits or something.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're
that
not sure
sounds
why you've
about
been here
right.
longer than you should be, sort of thing.
He has some hunches, certainly, having known him for as long as he has.
Yeah.
Um,
like there's a bit of
mhm.
paranoia telling you that he might just be using you to get like all the medial tasks done.
Nice.
Yeah, it's always been in the back of his head.
Mm-hmm.
But he is
yeah.
going... mhm.
I'm assuming you
Yes.
like eventually reach down
Gonna
and
find
open
the
up the
drawer.
desk drawer.
Yep.
Yeah. The desk drawer is where all organization, any even semblance of it, breaks down, and the drawer is filled with various non-spoiling arcane spell components.
Mhm.
You see right at the back of the drawer, something that wasn't there before, is there is a clear gem worth 100 gold pieces. And then more things that are more standard for you is like a ruby, a few loose coins from local and foreign countries, and a few sort of scattered feathers. After brushing like all these aside, you see at the bottom of the drawer there is a scroll wrapped in cloth and held shut with a
Yeah.
small pin through the parchment. Even
Um,
the back of the pin has like that sort of like it's one of those pins that has like a circle on the end and has a sigil of the wolf being entwined by the 4 arms on it.
Yeah, okay. I imagine this is the kind of drawer that he would notice the slightest discrepancy in, and, like, I would not be allowed to go to rifle through. Does that sound
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I eye the gems and just go through in my head the dozen spells or so that I know of that would utilize them, and I'm just like, oh, you'll never teach me such things. And I just pick up the scroll, just kind of a wistful moment.
Yep.
I'll unpin, unfurl it. What have we today? And I'll read it. What spell is it?
Yeah. Roll me an Arcana check.
I am really good at this.
It's not. It's
Hold
just how
on.
long. It's just how long it'll take, but it should
Yeah,
be.
First roll of the game, guys. First roll of the campaign. Let's make it
Hell
good.
yeah.
This is gonna
You're
dictate
really good
the
at Arcana,
status.
so you
Yeah.
The rest of the game. Well, that was an 8, but I mean, hey,
Hey,
So you notice it's in Star's handwriting,
Okay.
and it seems to be, as far as you can tell, a scroll of chromatic orb. You imagine he's copying it, he's having you copy it out so he can either sell it to someone or like give it to a colleague.
yeah, okay,
Yeah, and you assume that's also what the gem in the desk is for.
okay, interesting. Yeah, this is a spell that he had never deigned to even mention, much less offer to teach Jerome about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't like teaching you very many like combat offensive
Yeah,
spells.
of course. Yeah. Yeah, Jerome probably only for a fleeting moment considers just copying the scroll into his own spellbook, and then just thoughts of, oh, I'll be beaten, I'll
It's
be
a very possible thing for you to do if you want.
hexed again. Yeah, although if I copy a scroll, doesn't it dissipate the magic in the scroll?
I think so. Yeah, but I think you could just copy it from your book into another scroll.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
you're sort of this is one of the things that you're like literally hired to do is create these scrolls.
Okay, interesting. All right, if I think,
You can roll me a wisdom check if you want to see if you like are brave enough to do it, or you can just make a decision.
I think I'll make the decision because I think as of late, I think recently Jerome has, now that he has come into possession of some very useful defensive spells, he's a little more confident in doing things like this that are a little bit more out there. Because before, his master would slap him across the face, and there was a 50-50 chance he would pass out. He would be knocked out, right?
Oh
Okay,
no.
so you're gonna try and copy this up.
I don't think he's going to copy it off. He's going to copy the original onto a new scroll, and then copy the new scroll into his book.
Okay.
And then repeat
Cool.
the process.
Okay, yeah. If you would like to roll me, actually, I'm not even gonna have you roll me a sleight of hand. Just roll me a perception check.
Okay. Also, do I know when my master is set to come back? from this
You
business?
know it's not for like it's not until the evening.
Oh, perfect. Okay, then I'm very confident in what I'm doing.
Yeah, you have plenty of time.
Yeah, and I'm confident in my ability to cover my tracks. Perception?
Yep.
I'm pretty okay at this. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I GM rolled something.
Okay.
You're fine. We're gonna cut away from you.
Okay. Yeah. Scribbling on some scrolls.
Yes, and instead we are going to cut over to somewhere else. We're gonna take a step away from a scene, and we start seeing a bustling market. Brightly colored stalls with overhanging tarps that cover a large part of the street here. We see there's a lizard man leaning its snout down to inspect some spices, and we get this close-up shot of him taking like a long sniff. We see the wry smile of a trader who's sort of like behind her veil, sort of grinning, seeing like the lizard man's surprise, like all these like little minute expressions. We see hand movements of merchants that we start realizing are conveying more than what they led on. Sort of like this guy's an easy mark, this guy's a foreigner who can sell things to rip off, that sort of thing.
Nice.
We see a child running from stall to stall, and we see the innocence in his eyes, this sort of close up. We see the slight twinge of annoyance in his brow when he's denied food he's begging for. All these little minute expressions and personality captured from everyday life. And we begin to zoom out from the street until we're up in the air, and coming into view is a sandstone buttress that connects to a large Vishyala, which is the whorehouse, the brothel, essentially. And sitting atop this buttress is a monkey. Its fur, this sort of golden orange yellow, as it clings to the buttress. It seems to be observing the streets below. Another similarly colored monkey lands next to it, tilting its head to observe the first monkey, who's just intensely like looking down at the people below. It lifts one hand and extends its palm, and we see in its palm is half of a fig, and in its other hand it's holding like the half for it, and it's offering it to the other monkey. Brennan, do you take the fig?
I just look at the monkey, sort of, because I'm watching and I'm trying to and I was just getting a bit of a
You're trying to
conversation that I
focus.
thought was
Yeah.
interesting, and then it's just
Yeah, you like hiss at it, and it like
Yeah.
takes a few steps back and like bites into its fig while like looking over at you, but still is standing on the same sort of sandstone buttress. Stops bothering you for a little while. Your eyes are locked down on the streets below, and we begin to see what you were being distracted from. We see a girl clad in thick orange robes with sort of this orange veil covering her face. I'll see if I can find it to show you guys. I have so many NPCs to reveal.
That's the best part about the games, though, man. I love first sessions for that reason. Oh, what a beautiful lady.
Oh wow.
The veil is sort of trimmed with this gold patterns, and we see just representing the extreme like wealth of this person. More importantly, she's being flanked by two men clad in armor who are twice her size and stand out from the crowd. They're pushing through, drawing a decent amount of attention from just merchants and people who are trying to buy and sell things in the crowd. And Brennan, this is your mark.
Mm-hmm.
You are using her to gain access to her family. You've been put on observation of the Kishahi household for a little while, and have been ordered to sort of look into the ideas that they have been conspiring with some foreign illiberites to take more control in the city than they should have.
So that's why I've been tasked to just watch her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, you were tasked just to look into the family, but you were thinking, like, you yourself were just like, this girl's probably the easiest way in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of want to get into the house somehow using this
Okay,
girl.
I know how to do this.
Okay.
I would like to scan the marketplace for an especially aloof market stall owner
Okay.
that is that trades any sort of fine emeralds or like pretty rocks or perfumes. Any sort of good like that.
Okay, cool. Roll me a perception check.
Yep. 1 second. Let me pull up the monkeys.
Yeah. I'll give you a bit of info on the Kishahi. They're the noble family who run the salt trade. And the ruler is kind of growing a bit concerned, and so she's talked to your higher-ups, asking them to look into this, and then they...
So I only have the monkey's perception? And
yes.
I do this with how?
Wait, as a druid, you keep your mental stats, right?
I think I do, but it
Yes.
hasn't been LG
I
on my
believe
sheet.
you do.
You
So,
get whatever your highest stats are.
Yeah, so you can roll your perception if it's higher than the monkey's, which it will be because you're a druid.
Yeah, I just need access to my person.
Which I will give you now because I realized I did not reveal that. I revealed the monkey. There we go. This is Barabbas Ayun.
wow.
This is how he looks when he's not a monkey.
So that's a guy.
I just need access to it. Yeah, I'm currently a monkey.
Do you not have access? What the hell?
No, but I will describe my guy more once we actually see him move around as
Yes.
a person. Yes, I am not a monkey.
Yes. Brandon's
This
not
would
playing as a monkey.
it would be a great campaign if I could just play the monkey. But I would die, and everybody would be very, very sad. So I'm going to do a perception. Yes.
Yes. Nice.
Wow, didn't expect that.
Nice. Very, very nice. You rolled an 18. So, as you're looking down, you see a stool where there seems to be a man clad in very plain clothes and a boy clad in white. And you see, just as you're like looking down at it, the kid reach up and grab for one of the perfume bottles. Grabs it and like starts running, and you see the guy yelling and start like running down the street after it, leaving the stool like on its own for a moment.
Very good. So I am
And just
going
as that's
to...
happening, the other
Yep.
monkey like is pushing the other half of the fig with its knuckles towards you.
I want to grab the fig and throw it as far as I can.
Okay, yeah, you just throw it, it lands on some poor person in the crowd, and the monkey like looks down and then like starts hopping away onto a different roof. Yeah, you like hiss at it.
And I want to start jaunting down the buttress as quick as I can towards the marketplace stall. I'm going to be looking for a very specific scent.
Okay, roll me just a stealth here with advantage because the guy's not going to be particularly attentive.
With my monkey. Hold on.
Yes, this is with your monkey because it's
With my beautiful boy.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have a. Oh yeah, he does.
Nice.
11.
So let me just roll his advantage, and he has. Okay, so you get over there and start scanning the stool. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for any sort of a lavender type scent.
Okay, you see one, but it's on like the second highest shelf. So you have to be like kind of very obvious to get it, which is why your stealth is so low. Because you kind of have to like jump onto the like front of the stool and then jump up to grab it.
Yeah. So looking at that and then noticing that, I'm like, well, lavender's a good choice, but I'm going to start looking for now more of a honey smell, which is a scent that men typically like to wear, to mask like BO and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go for that because I'm like, this will be actually maybe more charming to her than just a lady smell.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to grab the honey perfume that,
Yeah,
she
and
would
it's on
be
one of the
easily
lower
all
shelves
shooters
because
well
like
wearing.
because yeah, this is like one of the easier to get shelves because it's sort of more of a it's slightly more of a common scent.
Yeah.
So you're able to grab at that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm
And you
going to
pick
grab
that up
that and I'm
and
going to
you
start
see
running towards
the
her
other
thing.
guy. Yeah, as you're like standing up, you like grab it and you see the guy, his head whips around as he's got the kid holding him up off the ground. This guy's like 5'9" essentially, but he's pretty built and he's holding the kid off the ground. He's like, "Hey, "What are you doing?" And then like runs back over as you like jump into the crowd.
Yep. I'm gonna jump into the crowd, and I am going to. I'm gonna get the fuck out of there.
Okay, roll me a stealth check.
Stealth check. All right, boy.
Yeah.
As long as I reach my destination, I'm pretty confident. Hell yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna roll this publicly. Because there we
Can't
go.
get better
Okay,
than a double 21, boy.
We see him get to the point in the crowd where you are able to easily just jump and move around, get into alleyways, start leaping like up on top of buildings, and he just like hits the crowd and is like, "Somebody stop that monkey!" It's like calling after you.
Nice. And yeah, I'm
And
gonna
you
be
have
dragging this this perfume bottle, and I want to start running to her. Is she in a carriage, like one of those?
She's like
carriages
walking.
or-
She's walking, kind of like skipping in a step, almost like Disney princess like. And there is one of the guards in front of her and one behind her who are like standing up, just like pushing the crowd aside, sort of like parting the waves of the crowd for her. And she's just seemingly like not a care in the world, just sort of like skipping and humming.
I'm going to try and get parallel to her and climb up onto a nearby stall tarp top so I can be kind of eye level with her.
Yeah, so you drop down onto like a stool sort of top, onto the stool top, and she like looks up and points at you, and one of the guards starts making his way towards you and starts like shaking her hand. She goes, "No, it is fine. Hello, little man. How are you?"
I'm gonna look at the guard like with this very like sheepish like, oh no, monkey
Yeah, like,
face.
holding the
holding the thing because it's this big thing, right? And it's got like this cork in it, so I'm gonna like bite the cork out and spit it towards the guard. The cork.
Yeah, it like hits him and he looks offended, but he seems to be like the girl's like holding one arm out and she's like slowly raising her hand. She's like, "What is it that you have there, little man?"
I'm going to dip one of my long fingers into it, and then bring it out and start to like just smell it, and then just get this show my teeth and just be like and just hold out my finger to her while I'm still clutching the bottle very much, and then I look over at the guard like, "No, just for you."
Yeah. She reaches out and like grabs your like little tiny wrist between like her sort of two fingers and thumb, like smells it. "You aren't the best picker of perfumes, but you're pretty cute." She like grabs your sort of like midsection in both hands and is gonna try and like lift you up.
Yep. And as she goes to do that, I'm going to dip my fingers into the thing again, and I'm going to flick it at her guard that I spit the cork out at.
Yeah, it hits him and he's standing completely still, and you just hear him, because you can still understand language even in your animal form.
Yeah.
You just hear him go, "Fucking pissed."
Yeah. And I'll look very amused
Silent.
with myself with like that big smile and like look over at her, like I'm putting on a little bit of a show.
"I was looking for a pet. You are perfect." She like is holding you, like just like staring down at your face.
God.
Now, do you need a home? I have a large one. Many things to climb on.
And I'm just going to start looking around, and are there any food stalls next to us?
There's one nearby.
I'm going to start reaching my hands out towards any of the fruits that are there, just very, very like kind of putting on a show for her.
She like more authoritative, like he goes, "Badass! Protect the monkey!" And then she puts you on the ground and you start like bounding towards it.
Yeah,
She,
I'll
like,
start
starts
hobbling over to the stall, and I'm gonna grab
slowly like
a...
humming. She like walks after you, just like.
Nice, fuck yeah, dude, I'm in,
Oh
boys.
my
So
God.
I'm going to fuck yeah, I'm going to run up to a mango that's way too big, right? And I want to pick it up, like just this huge mango, and just start eating it.
Check.
Oh
Hell
no,
yeah.
it's a monkey! Oh
You're a very small monkey.
I'm gonna be okay, boys. No.
Right, you start lifting this mango, and as you like get it above your head and are about to take a bite out of it, you get disbalanced and just fall backwards off the stool. And she like runs over to like make sure you're okay, and like sort of is kneeling down. She like tucks her dress underneath her knees. She's like, "Are you okay?" And she like picks up the mango and like holds it towards you.
Nice. I'll go over and I'll like scrape part of it, but because I've got some dust now on my mane, so I'll just kind of like stop and like just get it all off really quickly.
No, it's okay. We will get you clean.
my God.
And I'll just kind of like start hopping over very, very like tentatively.
She's like holding the mango out.
And I'll go, and as I go up, I'm just gonna very purposely, because she's holding the mango, I want to get my little small hand around the knuckle of her thumb, and hold on to that as I start eating part of the mango.
Nice. Okay. And as we get that scene of you just like taking a bite, like while holding onto her thumb with your tiny little monkey paw, we are going to once more cut away. And
Nice.
we come back to see a somewhat darker room. Its walls are sand-colored and the ground is completely flat. We know it feels cold. There's a thin layer of sort of dust and sand littering the floor, and likely treaded from elsewhere since it seems to be mostly stone and sandstone. But the room's smell is the indescribable mixture of sweat and lack of hygiene, upkeep, and also sewage. The room is relatively large, maybe 30 to 40 feet, sort of wide and long, and it's furnished only in the corners with a few benches. And at one end of the room, mounted on the walls, are these sort of chain anchors, connected to which by 4 long chains which stretch the length of the room to allow some freedom of movement, are 4 individuals. These chains aren't meant to really prevent any slaves from harming one another, but just to prevent them from just reaching the door. Underneath the chains, directly underneath it, is a sort of trough of shit and piss that the slaves use to sort of relieve themselves. Also a deterrent from trying to reach up towards the chain anchors, since you would have to wade through a decent amount of unpleasantness. A bucket filled with water rests in one corner, and we see a halfling female reaching over its lip and sort of splashing her face with the water. The only light source in the place is coming from this thin barred window at the top of the cells, which looks out onto the fighting arena in the city. The window is too high for any normal person to really see what's going on in any meaningful ways, just catching glimpses of feet if any fight is actually occurring. However, we see a human man clinging to the ledge and like peering out, just over the edge, about 15 feet in the air, just like clinging just at the ledge, peering out the window. He braces his legs and drops from the window with what would, for most, be a painful-looking height. And we hear his chains clatter to the ground as they hit the stone floor. This draws a very slight head turn from the guard waiting outside, who seems to decide it's not worth any effort trying to bring up. The man seems unperturbed by the fall and announces to the room, "They're coming." He looks around the room, glances over at the halfling, and then his head turns, and for the first time we see, mostly clad in shadow, a different person. Deuce, if you want to give us a description of Mace.
I was muted. Yeah, so Mace, he has grown up his entire life in slavery. His mom was a slave, and he was born into it, and he's been a fighter most of his life. He is it was a black dragon, so he has acid breath and all that stuff, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's Mace. He's, not too old, but he's a bit scarred.
Cool. So your sort of like scarred black dragonborn body is in the shadow, making it seem even like darker. And just like this one sort of beam of light coming up from the window, sort of like spraying into the room, is sort of hitting you, but concealing most of your face. This is the halfling woman that we saw, and this is the man who was clinging to the window.
Nice.
Mace, you've been told by Ikal, the human, that it's been about a day since the foreign traders arrived to the markets, which means that probably means that new slaves are arriving.
Right.
He's more on top of this sort of thing than you are, like keeping track, counting down days, that sort of thing. Whereas you're just like, when they come, they'll come. It doesn't matter, like counting down towards it. But Ikal's been rather excited and has been sort of chewing your ear off, talking to you about it. The halfling in the corner with the water bucket wipes her face and pushes her hand through her hair, sort of turning. Why are you even interested? All they'll try and do is escape and die. Fight and die. Or they'll even get a disease from that shit. Spits in the direction of like the trough in the floor. And die.
Some of them might have worth.
She just like glares over at you and then like looks away, like not bothering to even dignify it with a response. And you guys eventually begin to hear the sound of footsteps approaching. Multiple booted footsteps and the sound of bare feet hitting the stone floors. A single pair of bare feet. More than one set? Ikal mutters to himself, a sort of small smile growing on his face. The guards round the corner. One of them begins opening the door with 3 sets of keys for each of the 3 locks on the door, and the other 2 sort of push the prisoner inside. And you see that this man is attached with bindings at his neck, arms, and feet, and is slowly being led inside. And you get the idea this is what Ikal meant when he said more than one set. That it's probably someone of significance, since weaker fighters usually only get the 1 set and haven't tried to escape captivity more than once. The person being led in here with the neck brace is bulky and sort of has a green-grey tinge to his skin, which is coated in scars that tells of multiple past battles. Most of the scars don't look like clean cuts from the sort of fighting that you would have in arenas, but the jagged wounds and bite marks that come from fighting out in the wilds. As one of the guards tie him, he tries to like bite at one with his long tusks before the guard, one of them standing behind him, kicks him in the knee, sending him down as he partially falls into the sort of trough, the toilet, as he gets just mess down his lower the lower part of his body, clearly swearing, but I don't think you speak Orcish, so you don't know his language. The man is sort of yanked to his feet by the neck chain, and then is a little bit more humbled and allows the guards to finish chaining him to the wall. The guards begin to exit the room, looking back as they lock the door. The new individual, the orc, pulls itself to its feet and begins sort of wiping its down meticulously, like a hunter cleaning a kill, without even looking over at you. He seems to notice something, and then, whilst wiping a lot of brown sludge from his boot, he whips his hand around, and I need you to roll me a dexterity save.
Oh, no.
This is the man, by the way.
Nice.
Dexterity save. You make it. So he just holds this bunch of just like fistful of shit and piss, just like this slop, like it sort of sprays out towards you, and you manage to just like duck underneath as it like slams into the wall behind you.
Mm-hmm.
At least they have some who can at least try. Just spits on the ground again.
Welcome to the pits.
I don't give a fuck about the pits. I won't be here longer than a week.
So you plan on dying?
I plan on only others' deaths. But if it must be, that I will lose in a fight, then I was the weaker man.
This we can agree.
He nods, looks over to the other 2. What about either of them? I can speak for myself. The other one is more quiet. They haven't given me any fights since my first. Say it is too boring to watch a man who kills all he fights in one kill, in one blow. Like grinning at the orc as the orc sort of like huffs. I'll talk. At least this one is humble. Nods towards sort of like you.
I saw his fight. He killed him quick, but it was still just the one.
Yeah. I would do it in any fight. Don't try and... If you want to go now... He just like stands up from his seat. I don't need a blade.
He's referring to me, right?
Yes.
Can I kind of like open my mouth and like
Yeah, the sort of like
turn the
acid
energy
stuff.
and acid drips? Yeah.
Yeah. The halfling Nile sort of turns around like, if you'd both shut the fuck up. Fuck's sake. And I think we're going to pull away from you as well. And move over to another area.
So many jump cuts.
With our last character introduction. The cart that's moving through the desert is traveling slowly, but you, Kovas, know that you're about to finally arrive. The city has been visible for a little while, the river for even longer. The distinct sort of greenery that surrounds it is a rarity in the desert and is unmistakably a sign that you're near Mazina, especially the area you are. You don't find much greenery other than this area. Still, the journey has felt like it's taken longer than it should have because of the companions you're bringing along with you. Part of it was having to deal with your employers complaining. It's a desert, and yet he seems to explain luxury from this traveling service. But the other part is just the sheer memories that come back every time you walk across this place. Every person who you've brought across here, and particularly the sort of things that happened when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
During your long travel, you've learnt the man is noisy, inquisitive, and impatient. You fulfilled your end of the bargain, and you know you'll be paid a pretty hefty amount upon arrival. As long as the man's journey has been safe, you get paid. It doesn't matter if it's comfortable. Out the side of the carriage, a head emerges from a pair of curtains, showing a dark-skinned man with a significant amount of jewelry. Show to everyone. The carriage itself is a pretty drab thing for such a man, mostly practical. It's equipped with a special harness at the front, so it can be dragged by a pangosi, which I realize that not everybody knows what a dire pangolin looks like. So I'm going to show you guys what a dire pangolin looks like. It looks like this, but the size of a rhino.
Oh, God.
And that's pulling the cart as it.
That'd be a pretty mean beast to fight.
By the gods, Kovas. Is that Mazina? At least you can do your job. He's smiles at you widely, revealing his white teeth that contrast against his dark skin.
Yeah, I look at him and just kind of with a long glare, to say, "Yes, Keris. Yes."
He nods happily. And if you want to, as we sort of pull back, we see our first look at Kovas. And if you want to give us a little description of how he looks.
Yes. Kovas is first and most strikingly, he looks like a very large bipedal panther. His fur is black. He is very strongly built higher up, and he is very much kind of a nomadic looking and dressed person or beast. Sorry, I guess however you want to see a panther man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And you've been traveling for a little while, so it's been pretty hot, but you're used to this sort of heat in the sun at this point. Well, once we arrive, I have a few immediate things to take care of. I will send word of my arrival and have a few slaves handle my goods. Then you'll get paid.
Aye. Do you still want my protection, Keris?
For some time. But I think first we enjoy ourselves. I have good friends at a... Let me see what I fucking called it. I have good friends at a Veshalaya in this place. You can get as many women as you want. They may even have some of the more furry disposition.
I kind of look at him with like a sidelong, fuck are you talking about kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I say, Keris, enjoyment for me comes from the coin, you see.
Fair enough. His grin sort of grows, exposing his canines, which we see are completely gold.
Oh man.
In that
Glance over
moment,
to your right, by the way, Kovas, and you see in the distance the sort of desert gradient as it stretches on and on into the distance, starts to grow a deeper and deeper red until in the very distance this sort of haze, it's completely blood red.
Yeah, seeing that, I kind of look off into it, and then I just kind of close my eyes and shake my head a little bit, look back down towards my feet before taking a deep chest full of breath and turning back towards the city to travel back towards trying to keep the movement coming, because I know the payment's coming. I just want to get there and get this the fuck over with,
Yeah, and as you move forwards, the sand slowly gives way to greenery. and these, against all odds, shooting out of the ground, these like green plants. And before you know it, you're near the entrance gate to Mazina. This sort of large, sort of white to yellowy stoned wall shooting out in front of you. You're joining at the back of a large sort of queue of people waiting to enter the city, being thoroughly checked by a series of guards. The guards here don't seem to have a uniform apart from a single piece of cloth reminiscent of a scarf. Other than that, they seem to be wearing whatever they would. Usually some are not wearing a shirt, some are wearing some sort of like scraps of leather armor. But the ones at the entrance seem to be relatively like low budget people.
If I may, how tall are the walls of Messina?
The walls actually aren't that tall here because there isn't too much other than very minor undead that make it this far.
Okay.
So the walls are actually only like 15 feet high.
So this would be an easy city to siege if you were to want to. That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just curious.
The difficult part would be getting an army across the Bloodstone Oasis.
I was going to say it's got a natural defensive desert moat, essentially. Yeah.
The walls get larger as it gets more towards the river and the sea that are sort of adjacent to it, because there have been naval attacks on this place during the war with the Librian Empire. Not the Librian Empire, just with the Librian. But yeah, you join the queue. You see that the queue is made up of a small number of individuals, maybe 6 or 7 groups. And you smell the distinct smell of sweat and salt that implies that, sort of reminds you of your strangeness, being one of the few who travel to the city not by sea but by land. It's a quicker route, but it's just not one that, like, if you were to mention that you travel that way, many people wouldn't believe you.
Yes, I'm a
Just 'cause
person
it's
who
such a
travels
hard
that
journey.
I'm a person who travels that constantly, so definitely a person that's of interest in conversation.
Yeah.
One of those old sailors in a bar where like, I killed the biggest whale you've ever seen, kind of thing.
Yeah, and you're like, I crossed the Bloodstone Oasis.
Yeah, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
You dare?
And then you're like humble, and you're like, well, around the edge.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
I have to cut through them a little bit, like, other than that.
Yeah. And the queue slowly moves forwards, and you can tell that Keres is getting impatient, though this is more his type of impatient, like dealing with like queues and bureaucracy. It's fine. And once you're amongst the last towards the entrance, he sort of jumps out of the carriage and joins you. He's like, "You sure you don't want to take me up on the offer of the women?"
Yes, Keres, I'm not as fond of women or men, for that matter, as you are. I prefer more intimate relationship than you two.
You are truly a boring man, Kovas.
Say
that's where we're gonna take our break.
Nice.
Damn, son.
He gets the last word.
Rest in peace.
I'm the GM, and I get to take breaks, so I get the last word.